All right. Okay, so now we're recording. All right, so should we get started, Ellen, or
Yeah, I think we should, yeah.
Okay. So welcome everybody to the FGFR Syndromes Patient Registry webinar. I'm so excited to have you here today. Next. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a couple different things. I'm going to give a quick intro and talk about Born a Hero, and then goals of the registry, and then why you should register, and what does the patient registry have, and how do you register to participate. Talk a little bit about the privacy and who can help, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. So I will say again that this is being recorded and we'll be posting it on the website. And also I will say that if you could please write your questions in the chat, that would be great. And then we can answer questions at the end. Next. So my name is Carolina Sommer. I'm the CEO and founder of Born a Hero Research Foundation. I'm also the co-founder of the Northwest Rare Disease Coalition. And most importantly, I am a rare disease mom. Again, happy Pfeiffer Syndrome Day. Pfeiffer Syndrome was discovered by Rudolf Arthur Pfeiffer, who's a German geneticist and was born on March 30th, actually, in 1931. So aside from Pfeiffer Syndrome Day, I just want to clarify that we support all FGFR syndromes, not just Pfeiffer syndrome. What does FGFR stand for? Fibroblast growth factor receptors. Ellen will talk a little more about actually which particular FGFRs syndromes that we will be supporting in the registry. So she'll talk in detail about that. But first, I want to talk or say thank you to our registry advisory board. And these are the people that really guide the direction of where we go with the registry. We also, it's different from the Born a Hero Medical Advisory Board. This is more focused on the actual, towards the registry. So next. Oh, sorry. And so sorry, really quick. So our PI principal investigators are Ellen and myself. And then we have Dr. Berger, Dr. Dahl, Dr. Fieron, and Dr. Nishal. So, so that's the team. Next. And then I also want to thank our patient outreach team. These are the people that educate and create awareness on the registry. So we have Melissa, Haley, Chelsie, and myself. Just so grateful for these ladies. You're good. Yeah, next. And so I want to talk a little bit about just, you know, how Born a Hero came to be in the registry, to give you a little bit of background and story. So Born a Hero was founded in 2016, so 7 years ago. I struggled with my daughter being constantly bullied. I was getting sick from the stress of watching her go to the hospital about 6 times a month for the first like 5 or 6 years of her life. One time we were actually both taking in the ambulance together at the same time. And I like to say I've been sick for 10 years and that's how old my daughter is, but she turns 11 today. It's just the stress is so real. And I really do think that all these medical things have been stress induced. For rare disease parents, we just become experts and it's a heavy load to carry. So anyway, so I founded Born a Hero because I have been moved by the resilience and strength of these kids, these patients, and the parents too. And so anyway, but Born a Hero was started as a support group. And again, in 2016, but in 2020, we became a research foundation. So it was really exciting. We felt that it was time because we had an amazing medical advisory board and we had built relationships with some of the most recognized scientists in the country and the world. And we also had made a lot of connections with different hospitals and patients. And so we felt like the time was right. So in 2021, we started hosting the FGFR Syndromes Collaborative Research Network Conference in partnership with Seattle Children's Research Institute. The conference was divided into 3 parts. like you see here in this graph, basic, translational, clinical, and patients. And I just want to say, which is really beautiful because it reflects on something that we're so passionate about, and it's collaboration of all stakeholders involved in the research. I think that collaboration really accelerates research. And so basic scientists are the scientists that sort of study that biology, and then translational are the ones that go from investigational focus to an innovation. And then the clinical are like the doctors and the physicians, and then always the patients at the center. So, and it is through this conference that I've been talking about and through our medical advisory board that we really prioritize what research and studies we wanted to pursue. And we want to do something that has never been done before in our community. So it's a really exciting and special time. Ellen will talk more about this and the goals of the registry. So I'll let her do that. I want to say that this is a patient-owned and patient-run registry, which is really exciting. And we want to share our findings with researchers so we can continue to accelerate research. But it's safe and everything is IRB approved. So again, but we can't do this without you. It's an exciting time, but we need you. We need patients to be part of this. So thank you so much. Now I would like to introduce Ellen Morgan. I only have wonderful things to say about you, Ellen. She's the founder and president of PROS Foundation. She's also the registry PI, the principal investigator. She's also on the Born a Hero board. She's done clinical trials for over 20 years, and she's a clinical research consultant, and has started like 3 organizations. So you get the point, like she is amazing. So I will let her take it from here. Thank you, Ellen.
Well, thanks for that. Now I don't have to do it myself. So, so anyway, first we wanted to show you a video from NORD, which is the National Organization for Rare Diseases. And that's the organization that is providing the registry platform and is helping us with the video. So hang on while I get that video up. Hopefully I can locate it here. Darn, where is it? Actually, let me just click on this. So this will just tell you a little bit about registries in general. Oh, wait a second. Sorry about that.
Or I guess we can, do you want to do the other video if we can't find it, or?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you want to do the other video if we can't find this?
No, can you hear it now?
Oh, no, we can't see it yet or hear it.
Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties here.
Yeah, we can't see it yet.
Okay, I have to go back to here.
Oh, okay. Something's coming up. Oh, it was on the slide. Is that why? Okay. Is it a link or? Oh, we can't see it still.
A registry is a tool for helping research. A registry is used to collect.
So just to make sure, can you hear it now?
We can hear it, yeah. We can't see anything, but we can hear it.
There's nothing yet.
And store information about a disease or condition, a procedure, a treatment or medical device, or an individual's experience living with a condition or set of symptoms. Different registries collect different types of data, such as clinical lab results or scans, or how a rare condition may change over time. Sometimes clinicians contribute data, sometimes patients, and sometimes it's both. Patient registries help the rare disease community by providing valuable information to doctors and scientists to help develop treatments, and to patient organizations to help advocate for resources, support, and therapies that change lives. This information can be critical in identifying candidates for clinical trials, building connections among patients, supporting research goals, or helping to develop standards of care for patients. So, why would you want to participate in a registry? It's a chance to tell your story, to participate in a community, and to contribute to a cure.
So I hope you could see it. Next I have a video to share from Dr. Corey Resnick. Dr. Resnick is an attending physician of oral and maxillofacial surgery at Boston Children's Hospital and associate professor at Harvard Medical School. And here's his message from a physician's perspective.
Hello, my name is Corey Resnick, and I'm a surgeon at Boston Children's Hospital. I'd like to briefly share with you why I think a registry is so important for our community. So today, most of the decisions that are made by our care teams managing children with rare facial differences are guided by experience and training of the providers, and preferences and protocols that exist in each of our institutions. And while we all strive to provide optimal care for our patients, we don't always get there the same way. Most of us do critically evaluate our results and are always trying to improve, but knowing how to do that can be really challenging, particularly when we're managing problems that occur so rarely. And that's where a registry is so critical. A registry would allow physicians and other providers to use real data to shape treatment decisions. With a registry, we can study outcomes across many different institutions rather than just within our own. And we can increase the number of patients we evaluate in order to reveal subtle differences in our results. A registry would also allow us to identify outcome measures that are important to patients and families like you. Quality of life and burden of care, for example, rather than just focusing on medical and surgical metrics. Perhaps a registry could even allow groups to collaborate more and identify new, innovative treatment strategies. So please join us on this journey toward creating a registry and improving the care for our children. Thank you very much. Hello, my name.
Whoops. Sorry. Cut him off. Okay. So next I wanted to share some background information for you about this specific FGFR syndromes registry, and then some information about using the registry. So the primary goal of this registry is to really understand or get a better understanding of the relationship of genotypes for FGFR syndromes with phenotypes. So the genotype is basically the genetic information that makes you who you are, the genetic data, and the phenotypes are your physical characteristics. So we are collecting data for 15 syndromes, and they're all caused by variations in FGFR 1, 2, and 3 genes. And we want to figure out which variants in which genes result in which traits. So these are the 15 syndromes that we'll be collecting data for in the registry. Most of them are caused by variations in just 3 genes. And as you can see, there's not a one-to-one correspondence. So one gene can cause a variety of characteristics, likely due to different types of mutations within a given gene. So we will be asking you to upload genetic reports when you have them, and this will really help researchers. So other goals of the registry include increasing the appreciation of the social, emotional, and financial stresses for patient families in order to provide better support, to develop a contact registry to be able to notify patients of research studies and other activities, and to learn, share, and support each other. Additional goals include characterizing the population as a whole, understanding the prevalence of the disease, the phenotype, and the rate of progression of signs and symptoms over time. We also want to be a resource for researchers to design prospective trials of novel treatments. And we know of at least 5 companies that are in the early stages of developing treatments for FGFR syndromes. And information gathered from this registry will help them design their trials. So Dr. Resnick mentioned it a little bit, but how does the registry help researchers specifically? So it helps to define the study endpoints. So what effect do we want to measure? What symptoms and what conditions are most important to patients? So that helps a lot with designing a trial and designing a treatment. Second, understanding how the disease changes over time. Are these symptoms expected to improve or worsen over time? So how can we measure the effect? Third, to help us define the patient population. Who are the candidates for the experimental treatment? So who are the patients that we can treat with our treatment? And then finding patients to participate in the trials. So now I wanted to tell you a little bit about how to use the registry. We're still doing final testing, but we expect that it will launch maybe late April. So keep your fingers crossed that we'll be ready. So the general process will be to go to the registry by using a link that's provided on the Born a Hero website. But for everyone who's registered for this session, we'll send you an email when the registry launches with the link so that you can link to the registry. Once you do that, a user guide will be provided, and that will kind of walk you through the steps. Not that it's difficult, but it's always easy to have a step-by-step guide available. One of the first things you'll do is select the account type, whether you are the caregiver or you're the actual participant with the FGFR syndrome. Then you'll add the participant and review and sign the informed consent, and then you can log in and take the surveys. And one thing I wanted to mention, that this is actually a natural history study, so we want to collect data over time. So we will ask you to return if you just want to update your data, if you have additional data to add, and then we will be adding quality of life data. So we'll be asking you to complete those surveys on a regular basis. So just a little bit about, just kind of a diagram about the account type. So as I mentioned, you'll have a user guide. You'll register for an account and select the appropriate type of account. And if you have a diagnosis of an FGFR syndrome, you would select participant. If you are entering information for someone else who has an FGFR syndrome, you select caregiver account. And this is kind of what the screen looks like. And Caroline and I were a bit confused ourselves about who the participant was at the beginning. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. And then once you've done that, then you log in and you'll use your email and you'll have a password that you select. And then you add the participant. So a little bit of information about the participant. will be asked. And this is what the screen looks like. So one of the important things that I mentioned is that there will be an informed consent that you would need to sign. So the consent form explains the goals of the registry and other registry information. It explains how your privacy is protected, where the data is stored, and how the data will be used. So it's important that you read the consent document thoroughly. If you have any questions at all, you can reach out to Carolina or myself at this email address, registry@bornahero.org, or the North Star Institutional Review Board at info@northstarreviewboard.org. And make sure that you read the consent document carefully. So this is just an example of what it looks like. And again, the contact information is at the top. And then this is sort of the end of the consent form. And this is where you would check the box that you consent to participate and that you would wish to provide the data to the registry. During this study, you can view the consent at any time. So once you've consented, you're able to view it on the home screen. So this is just a snapshot, a partial snapshot of the home screen. And you can view the consent at this point or over here where it says consents and opt-ins. You'll notice it says opt-in. So one of the things you can opt in for is if you happen to need help with getting genetic testing. So if you check the box, interest in genetic testing, then we will see what we can do to help you get genetic testing. So you can do that right through the registry, and then we'll follow up with you. And this is the home screen. Has a lot of information on it, so I wanted to point out a couple of things. So in this upper right-hand corner here, this is the information about the participant. And if you click on this little box here, you can edit the participant's name. You can edit their information. So maybe you entered their birth date incorrectly, or you forgot to put something in. You can edit this at any time. Down here with this purple arrow is the navigation area where you can add a participant, manage a profile, change your email, your password settings, and then where you would log out. You could, if you happen to be caring for more than one person, you could actually enroll both of them under one account. And this is mine. I happen to have 6 people enrolled under my account. You might recognize some of them. And then over here on the right with the green arrow is contact information. So you always have that available. And then the surveys are here right in the middle. I'll tell you a little bit more about those. So this is a list of the surveys that will be included. Getting started, demographics, diagnosis, medical history, research history, disease-related conditions and treatments, additional disease-related information, additional demographics, genetic and clinical diagnosis reports. The first launch will not include the quality of life, but we'll be adding that shortly. So these 2 that are marked with an asterisk, I just wanted to show you a little bit more about them. They're a little bit more complicated. Most of these are really, really straightforward and easy. So the disease-related conditions and treatments is broken down into numerous sections. So the sections are bone, muscle conditions, face, jaw conditions, skull or neurological conditions, airway, ears and eyes, GI, and then some other conditions here. And then for each section, there'll be additional questions that you can respond to. So these questions would be as follows. So the first would be, has the participant had any of the following conditions? And then you'll be shown a list of what those conditions are. And then if you check one, then these other questions will appear. So it will be the approximate age when the condition was first noted, what type of treatment, was it surgery, medication, physical or occupational or educational therapy, a medical device or other, total number of surgeries to date for the condition, a little bit of information about the surgery, age of treatment, whether or not there were complications, and would you do anything differently if you had to make the decision again. And then if there is more than one condition in a given section, there's a button at the bottom called Add New, so you would click that. And again, there'll be instructions within the registry once you log on to help with some of that. And then this other form is the genetic and clinical diagnosis reports. So we'll be asking you about your genetic reports and clinical diagnosis reports. If those are available, we would ask that you upload a copy of the genetic diagnosis report and also the clinical diagnosis reports if you have them. So you would just click where it says choose file and upload the report from your desktop. And if you have multiples, again, you use this add new button at the bottom. So, and just to point out, because this is something that confused both Caroline and I initially, as you are entering at the bottom of each form, you have the option to cancel, which would remove all the data you've entered. You can save your progress. So if you don't know everything and you need to go check something and come back later to update it, you would click Save Progress. And if you're finished with it, then you would click Submit. If you have questions about the consent, about the surveys, if you need help with genetic testing, you would contact the registry staff using this email address, registry@bornahero.org. And here's the full information. And again, here's the email address for the North Star Review Board in case you have concerns about anything such as your privacy or anything like that. But most of your questions should just come to us. And now I wanted to introduce Chelsie Nickel, and she will talk to you about her perspective as a parent on the registry. And I'm sorry, Chelsie, I don't have your background information, so could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a parent to a child with Pfeiffer syndrome, and my professional history has been mostly in the nonprofit sector. So coming into this kind of advisory board has been wonderful. I was so excited when I first heard about this registry launching and just the implications it has, not only for our kids, but for our grandkids. I think for me, that's one of the biggest, most exciting things about this is when we first got the diagnosis and then we learned that she had a 50% chance of passing this on, you know, you start thinking about those things, that one day she's going to be a woman and she might want children. And what does that mean for her looking at motherhood? And so this registry gathers information that helps our children, helps us better understand how to treat our kids, and then also helps them understand as they're moving into making decisions about parenthood, what they want to do and ways that they can treat their own children. And then this registry also provides information for these clinical trials that hopefully will be coming down the pipeline. I think you said there were 5 pharmaceutical companies right now looking at different therapies and options for our kids. So just all of those things coming together that makes it really, really exciting to better understand how to improve the quality of life of our kiddos. So, and I love this little one, Haley's baby down there. She's so sweet. She looks so much like Rosie at that age. And I've developed this wonderful affinity for the Pfeiffer look. The FGFR face is just beautiful to me, and I hope everyone sees the beauty in that. So anyway, yeah, I'm just excited to be here, and I hope as other parents and medical professionals and caregivers for our Pfeiffer kids, you guys are just as excited as I am.
So we have a few minutes for some questions. So I know that we had some questions come in on the registration form. If anyone else has any questions, we can try to answer those now. Otherwise, you can email us later if you'd like. But Carolina, do you want to address the questions that we received previously?
I think she's on mute.
I am sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah, I would love to. That's what I was saying. So yeah, we have 3 questions so far. I don't see any in the chat yet, but what surgery has better outcomes, the Lafort or the monoblock, and what are the differences? So I think, so one of the things that I'll say about the registry is that we're trying to, as you saw kind of with Ellen, what she showed, we're trying to figure out some of these things actually with the registry. We talk about, you know, what types of surgery you had, what age was it at, what were the outcomes, what would you have done differently? And I think that's what this registry is about. I think it will really help us to talk about, address some of these things, and even the age and the and things. So I think that's part of it. I don't know, Dr. Peter, if you want to jump in and answer.
It's a great question, and it's almost an impossible question to answer because every child's different.
That's right.
What one child needs at one age may be very different. The procedures are similar but different. The difference is what you bring forward. So a Lafort level surgery brings basically from here down, and some kids don't, you know, that's all they need. A Lafort will bring the whole face forward, and some kids will need that. And again, it really is what's great about taking care of these wonderful kids is that it's individualized, and different kids need different surgeries at different times. Great question, but very almost impossible to answer.
Yeah, yeah. So here's another one for you.
Sure.
Glad that you were here so you can answer these questions.
I'm delighted to do it.
So when a Cruzon kid sleep study shows mix of central apnea and obstructive apnea, what is the suggestion? Will addressing Chiari malformation help ease the sleep apnea? If using BiPAP helps, we should delay the surgery for Chiari malformation until mid-phase advancement.
Wow, that's like that's like a question we get at a meeting. That's got so much in there. So yeah, just to break it down, you know, kids who have mid-face hypoplasia, which means that the mid-face hasn't grown as much as we would like, they are at risk for not having great breathing because everything's pushed backwards. So everything's small. The nose is small. The upper mid-face is small, and it's hard, you know, to sometimes to breathe. For certainly for the neonates, you know, there's lots of things we can do. We try to avoid putting a tracheostomy in if we don't have to. Sometimes just putting the child on their stomach helps. And sometimes, you know, as I think the question mentioned, they're on sort of breathing help machines, like a BiPAP machine, which will help you take a little breath and it actually forces some air in. And if that works, that's great. We try to, you know, avoid that if we can, because they can be problematic and they can be uncomfortable. They can be poorly tolerated. So we evaluate that. Regarding the Chiari malformations, it's important to determine what's causing the inability to breathe. Sometimes it's up here, it's a central problem, whereas they have enough room in the midface, but they're just for some reason not breathing. And in those cases, that's a question for a neurosurgeon who can answer it. I doubt that would be cured only by repairing the Chiari malformation, which is a bigger opening back here. But that's a whole other question.
Yeah, and I think I know for my daughter, like her obstruction happens mostly when she's on her back, like because her tongue.
Correct, because where does everything go? It sort of wants to fall to the floor. So many times kids actually breathe better when they're on their tummies.
Yeah. Here's another one. I'm not sure how to say this correctly, so I'm actually gonna type it. Let's see. So, can you pronounce that correctly for me?
Tyrosine kinase. So
Thank
that's an
you.
enzyme that we all have, and sometimes there's mutations in it's probably one of the more ubiquitous, meaning we have it for lots of different things. It's basically a very common enzyme that breaks down tyrosine, which is an amino acid.
Okay, and so they're asking about if there's any research on this as far as inhibitors.
I'm going to say yes, but I don't know it offhand. You know, what's great about, you know, getting back to the registries, what's great about this is you can find, you know, small groups, small registries that are working on this, that may not make it to mainstream New York Times cover articles, but my thought is for many of the diseases we have, there's small laboratories with dedicated people who are interested in this, and that's great. I think that's awesome. But it's getting them, you know, financial support and money, and the NIH, which gives a lot of money to researchers, is not always easy to get. And having a laboratory that's working on tyrosine kinase mutations and inhibitors, to get them a little bit of money can go a long way.
Right. Yeah, and it's like there are you know, sort of like 5 pharmaceutical companies working, you know, on drugs for kids, and but we can't really share at this point either sort of like what they're doing because of the stages at which they're at. So.
And it takes a long time to create a safe drug, a well-tested drug. You know, the government does try to look out for our kids and make sure that we're not rushing things to market too soon. And there's a lot of development that goes into these.
Right. Yeah, Ellen, and I had a question, or I don't know if are there any other questions too? Actually, I'm gonna see if anyone else. Thank you for answering all that. I'm glad that
I'm delighted to do it.
Did you know that you're coming into that? Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, I have some questions that I could start asking, and again, you can either unmute yourself or just put them in the chat. As far as the surveys, Ellen, maybe you could answer it. It seems like there are a couple of surveys, you guys, that have to be done, as you could see from the slide that Ellen showed us. And so, Ellen, like, are they all long?
Are they all what?
Are they all lengthy or?
Oh gosh, no. I think I mentioned that most of them were pretty straightforward. And short. The demographics, for example, should probably take about 2 minutes. You know, and a couple of the other ones are also very short. The disease-related conditions and treatments is the one that's most complex, but also the most important. That's where we really want to learn about what are the symptoms and how have they been treated and what were the outcomes. So that's the one that's hardest to do, but also the most important.
Yeah, so that way, like when you go into the registry, you don't get overwhelmed when you see, you know, that there are a couple of different things. Like a lot of them are really short, except that one that, you know, Ellen was talking about. And when you do one, does it go on a sequence? Like if you do you need ones to fill out the others? Like if you fill one, does a new one pop up or?
It does, but you don't actually have to finish one before you move on. You can save your progress and go on to another one if you want to do that.
Are you able, what happens if you don't save your progress?
Then you lose it. So
Yeah,
it's very important to save your progress.
Yeah. So, and which ones, do you remember which ones are ones that you can edit and which ones you can't come back to edit? Do you remember?
So like the demographics and the diagnosis, once you've submitted, you know, you can't go back because, I mean, if you save it as in progress, then you can go back. But once you've submitted it, you can't edit it because that information shouldn't change. The disease-related conditions and treatments, that's something that's evolving. So you can go back to that at any time. So if another treatment is added, or you have, you know, a change in complications or outcomes, you want to go back in and update your information. We will also send reminders out from time to time, asking you to go back in and update that and to take the quality of life survey.
Yeah, so I think what she was, and I'll add to that, you know, some of them are like every 6 months, and then some of them are pre-filled, right? So when they go edit, everything's
Exactly,
still,
yeah.
so when we resend it again, since, you know, you want to study, so natural history, you study the natural progression of the diseases. And so when you go back, as some of, you know, as like every 6 months, I believe we're going to do some of these, it will be pre-filled. So it's not like you'll start from zero and, you know, you can just change things, right, Ellen? Is that
right? Yes, that's a good point that I didn't mention.
okay? And then we'll, again, we just to emphasize what Ellen said, we do hope to help with the genetic testing. And really, if you have any questions along the way, we're happy to help, you know, with anything. So, or to at least try to answer all the questions as we can. But yeah, but we do want to help with the genetic piece of it, as far as getting people that. Anybody else have any questions that they
I
like?
do. I was wondering, how frequently will we as participants be updated with just information, you know, as things kind of become glaringly obvious about different treatments that are more preferable to others, as we start discovering, like even just in talking to other parents, we'll all figure, you know, there's this rare side effect of this medication, but it seems like a vast majority of our kids have that very rare side effect or that very rare complication in surgeries, that the doctors, if they're not super well versed in Pfeiffer syndrome, are kind of like, oh, but it's so rare, like don't worry about it. And then the next thing you know, like you're facing that, and then you're talking to other parents who also face it, and it's like, oh, so this is wonderful to know that it's all going to be like brought together, and we're gonna, but so how frequently will we know some of the information that's being identified?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, within the registry for each survey, there'll be some reports. We haven't actually implemented them yet. We'll do that once we have some data in the registry, and you'll be able to run those reports anytime. And then some additional analyses we will try to do, you know, when we have enough data, which may be 6 months or 1 year. So we'll try to make sure that we send that information out to the community, you know, at least once or twice a year. But again, there'll be reports available that you can run anytime.
And I'd like
Wonderful.
to add to that too, like we're gonna have a new website like that we're working on. And so we will have a lot more data and information as far as like, you know, what is a registry, like videos and flyers, and you know, it'll be easier to navigate, and we'll have a whole section on, you know, sort of research. And so there's also that. I was going to ask another question, right? I forgot. But yeah, there will be graphs that we'll be able to provide, and it is one thing that's really exciting, I think, about this registry is that you know, there's a lot of things that our parents and our families wonder, like, okay, what is in fact related to these conditions, that, you know, as far as like, you know, our sensitivity to temperature, you know, heart issues or malrotation, intestinal malrotations, you know, just things that you wonder, like, is this actually a, you know, a Pfeiffer thing, or, you know, Apert's thing, or a, you know, so I think that will be really nice. And I think one thing that we really hope with the registry, like Ellen said, is that we can empower our families, you know, and our caregivers to, with all this information, to be able to, you know, sort of know what questions to ask, you know, what should you be looking out for based on what mutation or what gene your kid has. So it's, if we can identify this particular, so right now everything is done superficially, like by phenotypes, by the characteristics. But if we're able to know the gene, then we can say, look, this gene has these symptoms, and then the patients know, you know, like, oh, we should be checking for this, and we should be checking that, so we can be on top of things, right? Because we all know that early intervention is so important for our kids. And so I think it will really help with the planning, right? And making sure that our kids are treated at the right time. And alongside with the registry, we also are creating centers of excellence project or centers of excellence project. And so we'll have, so that also are, you know, and that goes along with our registry too, but we can talk about that later. But anyway, so we'll be able to make sure also not only that, you know, you're asking the right questions, but that you're going to these centers of excellence to get treatment and even to see what specialties each center has, you know, so, you know, some centers have specialty in breathing, you know, some have, you know, so there different centers do some different specialty things too. So it's all of that to combine really, you know, to do that. So, but we need you. So, and oh, I remember what I was going to say. Yay. Okay. I knew it would come to me. Okay. So we are going to start with English. And we really hope that after about 6 months into all this, that we'll be able to translate everything into Spanish. And so we are really excited about that too, because we want to diversify too a little bit. I mean, we got to start with Spanish. So that's like our first, you know, next step is to try to translate the registry into Spanish so that we can get a more diverse, you know, sort of answers, or I don't know, that's not the word, diverse, what's the word I'm looking for, Ellen? Like
Input.
Yeah, so that it's not just in the US that we're looking at patients in the US, that it's more diverse information, I guess. I don't know. And so we were pretty excited about that we're starting to really reach out to other countries and getting them involved in this as well. Does anybody else have questions?
No,
Riley, do you have a question? I think Riley has a question. Riley, do you have a question? Tell me. Yes, that you're cute. Oh yeah, we all know that. Okay. So yeah, so I think Ellen, I don't know if you want to say anything to close, or you know,
No, just that don't be afraid to reach out to us at any time.
We're not
appreciate you
scary or anything.
participating.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.